seamlessly goes from comedic roles to very serious roles to leading men roles to character actors, and you do it so seamlessly. And I kind of guess I want to start off by talking about, what do you look for in a project?
Seamlessly. I feel like I'm grinding gears all the time.
No, you're amazing. That's what makes you so good. Is
Thanks.
you don't see that.
Michael Caine gave me some advice once. He said you have to. No, let me see if I do it. You have to be like a duck, smooth on the surface, but pedaling like a mother on the underwater. If it's seamless, then thank you. That's a nice compliment.
You know what? That's a really good analogy, though, because you have to. I mean, there's so much preparation and work that goes into approaching a role that no one ever sees. They just see the finished product. So
as well they should.
Yeah.
I think performances are often made in editing, saved and created in editing. It's a whole process, and actors get too much credit for what they do sometimes. I think they need to give back to the process of writing and directing, and yeah, it helps to be surrounded by creative and talented people sometimes too. I'll give you that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about Doom Patrol.
Sure.
Obviously, big fans. Now
Doom Patrol fans.
We know there's going to be a second season. The character is really interesting for you because, when you're transformed, you're not actually physically acting, but you're still providing the voice. Right. So can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Sure. Doom Patrol is, I hear that there might be a few Doom Patrol fans out there.
Doom Patrol fans!
Not everybody's seen it. It's a show for when the grown-ups have gone to bed, and then the kids can watch and have some fun. Those of you know what I'm talking about. It's a DC property. It's a team of misfits. Well, they're not even really a team. They don't want to be a team. They're anti-heroes. They're more anti-hero and anti-heroes. They don't want to save the world. They just want to figure out their own deep, dark psychological issues and leave all that other superhero stuff up to Batman and Superman. Again, this is a DC property. It's on streaming service, and we're heading into season 2 now. My character his name is Cliff Steele. He's a race car driver who lived his life recklessly. And I say lived because it's important, because for his misdeeds while he was alive, and that is, I question if or not he really did win all of those car races fair and square. I think he cheated. Hubris and life smack him right upside the head. He loses his life, his wife, his child, everything, and he's reincarnated in a way when his brain is replanted into the body of a broken down sort of steampunk-looking diesel-powered lawnmower of a robot.
Yeah.
He's angry, he's cranky, he's short-tempered, he has a foul mouth, he breaks things on accident. On purpose often too. He can see, he can hear, but he can't feel anything. So while his brain was put into a new body, he didn't have the heart. So his journey is to see if he can become a better human being as a robot than he was ever as a human being in a type of robot, his race car. So that's Doom Patrol. There's splashy, broad characters, Diane Guerrera, April Bowlby, Matt Bomer, Javan Wade round out the cast. If you get a chance, check it out. I think you might like it.
It's a great show. 13 episodes streaming, and then of course season 2 coming out. But is it difficult for you to voice someone else's physicality?
Oh, right, of course. It's a collaboration, really. The actor in the suit's named Riley Shanahan. Great guy. I'm so lucky. We're also lucky to have him. It takes really a village to create, superhero characters. Mm-hmm. As the fans know, they have to be meticulously designed, fabricated costumes if they're used. But our show is largely, let's call it more analog than digital. There's not a real huge CGI treatment on the characters themselves. So what you really see are effectively theatrical, almost costumed performances that are given. So the actor wearing the suit, Riley, wonderful. He's masked essentially. He's got 2 red blinking eyes and a jaw that moves a little bit, and his body inside this suit. So he's giving a full-on acting performance, and that's of course filmed. And then my task is to put the voice to it, just as you would do in any other sort of ADR or dubbing session. It helps to read the, do a scratch track of the first draft of whatever it is we're going to shoot. All concerned parties have a listen, and then we all have a better idea of who's going to do what. But I must say that, independent of that, the process takes on a life of its own to create this character, because everyone can understand the voice and what each one is going to do. For instance, I can't not read a script and not hear Diane Guerrera, who's Crazy Jane, who has 64 distinct character personalities. I can't not hear the way that she's going to do it. It's that specific. It's an exciting way to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're kind of new to the comic convention scene. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What are your impressions of?
Easily some of the nicest folks. I've been missing out the pleasure of making their acquaintance.
You know what? Totally.
Yeah.
I always say conventions are kind of like if you go to the same ones, as an attendee, it's kind of like going to summer camp. You guys get to bond together, and it
Let's
really,
all room together next convention.
Yes. See, now we've got you hooked. What are you?
They've got cookies and tea backstage. Are you kidding?
I know, right?
I'll be there.
Everybody here is obviously geeking out about you and a fan of you. What do you pull the curtain back? Tell us what you geek out about. What do you love? What are you passionate about? Aside from all your creative work.
Well, I am. I'm revisiting it. Cameras were very big in my world for a while. Speaking of going from analog to digital, I loved Polaroid cameras. Back when you could slap a pack of film and then pull them apart and know you didn't have to shake them. Those were good. You could shoot black and white film. I liked printing my own work, that I would shoot film 35. I have a lot of nice negatives left over from films I've made, and to be honest, I haven't picked. I'm trying to get better, but since the advent of everybody walking around with an image making device in your pocket, cameras become less and less important, and as those image-making machines are more and more ubiquitous. So I think I'll have to lean on it to try and go back. You know what? You've inspired me. I'm going home, and I'm going to dust off all those cases and pull those things out and see if I can get them to work again.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to see some of your work. You should do a coffee table book eventually.
I could. I had a lot of good shots, mediocre ones from when we did that, the first one. I know that I haven't touched those cameras since, because there's still sand and dust in the bottom of the cases. It's true.
It's true. Well, I know you guys probably have
spiders in there, too.
questions that you'd like to ask, so feel free to line up at the mics. And while they're sort of getting themselves organized, like I was mentioning at the beginning, you jump from, comedy to drama and all these different roles. But I'd like to ask you about Crash, because I was a huge fan of that movie. And a great ensemble, won the Academy Award. What was your experience like on that film?
It was. I guess it was a pleasure to work on a piece that went all over the Los Angeles skyline and story and world, following one element all the way through and seeing how many people it touched. I think it was a unifying film. I think that for the time that it came out, it was speaking truth. It was speaking truth to power, and it's a rare occasion when that comes along. But thanks for mentioning it. That's good of you to say. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, we'll start over here. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
Great.
Hi.
Good.
Hi.
Thanks.
You've played such an amazing variety of characters. I'm not going to make you pick just one, but can you tell us your top 3, like the ones that you enjoyed the most?
To be honest, I'm just glad to have a job.
We're glad you have a job.
Thanks. That said, I'm having fun doing Cliff Steele on Doom Patrol right now. It's truthfully, it's the same thing anytime with whatever, and I defy any actor to convince me otherwise. What you're doing is the most important job that you've got right there and then. So that should be the the most relevant one. Look, I really love that a whole generation of now young parents come to me and say, hey, I watched George of the Jungle, and I was a kid, and then they say, hey, I got a bone to pick with you because my 4-year-old has 6 stitches right here because he was smashing into trees in the backyard playing George of the Jungle, and I feel like a grandfather. Look, the Mummy movies were great. They were really thanks. They made me.
You were amazing.
They changed my whole, professional trajectory in life, that kind of thing. And, for better, sometimes a little, but I should also mention, and this is just reaching backwards. In 1997, I worked here in San Antonio on a film called Still Breathing.
Love it.
And y'all saw it.
Yes.
It was one of the best experiences that I had in the 90s in independent filmmaking. It had a wonderful original score. Its direction and art direction were singularly eclectic, and it just was a love letter to the very creative community that I had the pleasure of discovering existed here. That and Jim Cullum, the great Jim Cullum, did music for it, and I think Junior Brown also. Yeah. Junior was a wonderful is a wonderful musician, but he wouldn't. I think he was not going to act with his glasses on, and he couldn't act at all. Yeah, okay, I blew that, but it was a really great experience here in Texas. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. Hi.
Hi, Brandon. How are you, sir? Okay. Bedazzled is absolutely one of my favorite movies. One of my favorite comedies. How did you prepare to go through every single character, from speaking Spanish for one of them, to overly sensitive guy? How did you prepare for each and every single role in that?
That was directed by the late Harold Ramis.
It was.
So
Yes, it was.
we all had, we were all in good hands, and I was in good company. It was an ensemble of actors who were going to give us 7 separate and distinct sort of vignettes or movies, if you will. A lot of makeup, a lot of coffee, and not much dignity. No, okay.
But you gave it 110%.
110%. Right. I remember that. Y'all know what he's talking about?
Yes.
I was playing a basketball player, and he's sweating so profusely that he's drowning in his own sweat. And it was, a real high, low-tech effect with a pipe running up the back of my shirt, taped to my neck and under a wig. And then a guy, he had a Hudson sprayer, like this metal Hudson sprayer. He's going, and it just was pouring down my face. And if you watch the movie really closely, just at the end of it, it was only done in one take. One of the contact lenses starts drooling out of my eye. And I'm actually going, Keith, yeah! Because I didn't know what the inside of a Hudson sprayer tastes like until then. And I'm spitting all over the other guy, and his glasses are fogging up. Like my spit is, he's just going with it. Oh, good times, yeah.
Awesome. Good times. Thank you.
Thanks for that trip down memory lane.
I feel like literally everyone who comes up to the mics is going to be like, my favorite movie was this. My favorite movie. You have just such a litany of great films. So once again, just a great actor. Hi.
Hi, I loved all your movies, The Mummies, Blast from the Past, but I know you're funny. So are you naturally funny?
I am the least funny person I know. What are you asking me a question like that?
Are you saying, is he funny, haha, or funny like
Yeah.
Look, if it's one thing maybe that I've learned the hard way, is the moment you think you're being funny, you're not. Next.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
Hello, Brendan. My question here is that, going back to what everyone was saying, you played a lot of different roles, some wacky, some dramatic, some serious, some cool, all of those things. And my question is, which role do you think fits your personality the best?
Oh boy.
That's an interesting. That's an interesting question.
You know what? I don't know if it's my personality that I'm going after. Look, I'm grappling with that all the time, every day. I'd rather go and play someone else, someone new, someone diverse. Of course, and to be fair to your question, I'm going to borrow as much as I can draw on from whatever it is that I know, or whatever alchemy it is that somehow can be helpful some days more than others. But I do know that one of the most important things to do is to find a way to care about what you're doing. And if you don't, then your audience is not going to. Because if you don't believe in what you're doing 110%, then no one else will. And I'm old enough to say that I remember when green screen was blue, okay? You gotta believe that there's a mummy there and he's going to eat you. Or your audience will not. And because that means that the CGI guys will not, and you'll get cut, or they'll find a way to, I don't know, like CGI a thing in front of you so we don't have to look at you being bad at acting or something like that. I guess I just like to work. That's the answer.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
God bless you, Brendan.
Thank you so much. So when you're in a scene filming something with a blue screen or a green screen, and you have to create the moment within yourself because it's not physically there, what do you do as an actor? How do you make it happen?
Believe it. Well, you know what? We have in Journey to the Center of the Earth, which was innovative for all kinds of reasons. It gave the world its first feature-length, live-action, three-dimensional, digitally generated film, which it was a blink on the radar. That film was shot with James Cameron's gear. We were really battle testing his cameras because all that stuff went to New Zealand afterwards, and then Avatar was what they used them for. So anyhow, I say that because everything for that picture is, it's evolved as it was, had to be pre-visualized. It had to be spelled out so that everyone knew what we were doing. So it was helpful to have a kind of movie to watch before we went and worked with, a whole lot of nothing,
Right.
so to speak.
Right.
But I should tell you that it's really no different than anyone giving a theatrical performance. I dare say even a mime on the street, if they believe it, your audience will too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Hi.
Hey, buddy.
What's up?
So I
You
joked
never
with
write, you never call.
Yeah, so I joked with you about Encino Man 2.
No, we've seen that juice.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
by the way, that's Eric Ivari, who said no, he's in the juice. Does anyone know who else he was? He was the E in The Mummy.
Yeah.
Factoid. Really great guy, too.
So that was one of my questions is we got the opportunity to see Pauly Shore here in San Antonio. You did? And,
I'm sorry. I'm kidding.
He's a pretty funny guy.
I'm not.
Any option or
He's
any
a great
chance
guy.
that you guys would collaborate again on something? I know Encino Man 2 is probably out of it, but I think now's the time for Monkey Bone 2 with the...
Wow, that's a tall order. I'm sure Polly would be delighted. Hi, Polly. And I don't know if there really is there a time. Is there really a time and place to make that movie again?
With the
I don't know.
technology now, I think you
seriously,
really
honestly,
could
you're
do-
fans. You care about stuff, and I know
The
you're like,
technology
"Yay, you
now-
gave me a piece of candy. I want another." But I don't know if it really will. I'll get back to you on that one.
The
Let me get back to
technology
you
there
on that
now.
one.
The technology's there now. I mean, you could do digital everything. You could make it look, what you wanted.
Well, if you got a treatment, I'm in the
Are
book.
you pitching yourself to direct it?
I would love to direct it. It would be my first movie.
You're fired.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Hi.
Hello. Oh, sorry.
You're all good.
Thank you. Back what you're saying about photography, things like that. One of your characters, the character you played in Scrubs was like all hardcore into photography. Did you get into? Were you already into photography? Was that something you came up with, or after that was when you
Bill
got into
Lawrence, the creator and executive producer, is a family friend, and his wife Krista is a wonderful photographer. She's also an actress on the show. He wanted me to come and just do something, so they wrote a part about a guy who had some health challenges, who was best friends with, you saw the show.
Right.
To personalize it, he said, bring some cameras. Bring your cameras with. We'll work it into the storyline. So I had the rare distinction of getting a set photographer credit for that show. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That's a great question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh. So I got DC Universe just to watch you on it because I thought, you'd be really funny. And in my opinion, you get better with every single role. And I was right for that. Doom Patrol was amazing and you were the best character in it, in my opinion. So what was your favorite episode to film in Doom Patrol?
My favorite episode to film? Well, let me just recap. Riley Shanahan does all the heavy lifting, and he's a great guy, and I love to watch what he does. And I'd be flattering myself to say that people on set were going, is that Brendan in there, or is that Riley? But
Sorry.
stay with me. He and I went to the same college, albeit 20 years apart, 20-some years ago. But we have similar training and background in movement and stage combat and sensibility for comedy and timing and giving a masked performance, which sounds very scholastic, but to the uninitiated, that means that if you put a mask on an actor and you take away their face, really what do they have left? Well, everything down below the shoulders, essentially. Now, if the mask doesn't move, as a mask normally does, and some of them do, as it normally doesn't, that means the performance that needs to be given has to press right through that mask, right to its audience, and then something magical kind of happens if it's done right. The audience becomes the actor when they reflect the performance back onto the actor on the screen. So it's more of a collaboration. I'm happy to go to work every day at Doom Patrol, and I'm happy to start again in about 3 weeks. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
That's a great question. That's a really great analogy. I love that. I've never about the mask and the projection back onto the character. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
What is your best and worst memory from the Mummy series?
My best memory is when the paycheck didn't bounce. I said it. My worst is when the paycheck bounced. That didn't happen. I have good memories of all of it. You know what? Making movies like that, being stuck on a far-flung location, maybe, I don't know, months at a time, away from comfort and friends, that can get trying, and it can play at your head. And speaking of pictures, I think I have, I guess technically, a selfie of my very last day of working in the desert. And I did one of these, and I went, click, and I printed the picture, and there was like a fly that landed right on my eye, but I didn't even notice. I was like that far gone. That was not a nice memory.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello. I really like Doom Patrol, and one line you say a few times through the series is "What the f." What's your favorite "What the f" in the series?
I think the running count is probably in the thousands at this point, so there might even be an app coming out. I just thought of that. That said, after I put the microphone down, someone likely will make one. I think that it's a vocabulary of sorts. Yeah. Think of Cliff's profanity as punctuation. Full stop.
It's also a drinking game, I can imagine. It should be, if it's not. Thank you. Hi.
Hello. Since nobody's mentioned it, I love Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Well, thank you.
That's what I said. There's too many movies, so I'm glad everybody's bringing up different ones.
Just a quick question. Were you a Looney Tunes
I
kid
was
growing up?
raised on Looney Tune cartoons. I'm of the view that everything and anything that you need to know about how to act can be learned from Looney Tune cartoons. I believe it. Joke, setup, anticipation, punchline, delivery. I mean, come on, it's all there. Who saw the Bugs Bunny cartoon when Bugs did the opera? Who cried? Who cried at the end? I did. Okay, it's a cartoon. Gotcha. But you know what? It's all storytelling. It's all there. The thing about Looney Tunes cartoons is when they were created, you, in a way, weren't supposed to see them. That was counterculture. It was. Because what was the alternative at the time? It was bunnies and rabbits and holding hands and singing songs together and getting along and doing helpful things, which is nice. But the Looney Tunes animators, they wanted to blow stuff up, smack each other with 2x4s, tell underhanded jokes, cross-dress, for goodness sake. I mean, all of that. I mean, it was really eye-opening. And it spoke to a sensibility of being told, if you're not supposed to see this. Of course, that's the first thing that you want to go and take a look at. So look, to have a chance to work with Bugs and Daffy, it's like, it sounds funny. I mean, it was a great, Daffy's a jerk. There, I said it. Bugs is a great guy. Everything you've heard about Bugs, he's the Iceman. He's the like, I get Christmas cards from him still. No, I don't.
Thank you.
Very much.
Yeah, thank you. Hi.
Oh, hi, Brandon.
Hi.
I just really kind of curious. The movie that you did, School Ties, really impacted me. I thought it was a really, really good movie, my favorite. Did you have to do anything to mentally prepare for that movie? I know it was a very, very powerful role. I thought it was very, very...
Just School Ties, set in the 50s, is about a kid who's recruited to come play football as the ringer quarterback to an Ivy League high school. He comes from a tough luck past in Scranton, PA, and he's sent to Middlesex in Boston. He's there on a condition that he not reveal who he is at his essence. He's Jewish. In a very Tony school, he's not allowed to come out with that. That's just dyspeptic to that environment. He's expected to just give results, play the game, win, keep your mouth shut, and the keys to the kingdom at the end will be that you'll have an opportunity now to go on to a higher education. It's a film set in a world of young men left to their own devices, boys. I'll call them boys. It's Lord of the Flies in so many ways. It's a society of peers and what happens when it's unregulated or made to self-regulate as young people. For those of you who've seen the film or haven't in a while, it doesn't end well for everyone in this movie. There is no pat, happy ending. David Green, the kid I played, he does learn about himself, that you need to be true. He did forsake who he was. He tried to play by the rules, but it didn't work out well for him at all. He was shunned, he was labeled a cheater, and he was ostracized in the long run. So, look, is it about prejudice, possibly as a theme, but also I think what it might have spoken to you about is the innate desire that we all have, no matter what your background or how you identify it, or what your faith is. And that is, we all have a collective desire to belong. We all want to belong. And we all know what it feels like to have your nose pressed up against the glass and being told, no, you can't come in here. Not now, not ever, unless. Check out School Ties, if you would, and just ask yourself a question. Does it still hold up? And I ask you this because it was set in the 50s, purposely. It came out in the 90s, 92. And with films as such, you know, historical recollection pieces, you can look back and say, oh, that was the past. That doesn't apply. Or you can look at it, why there is some distance in the past and say, wow, have we really changed? How do we go forward? This movie came out in 92 in LA. I went and did a reshoot on it. It was filmed in 91, and then we went for pickups in 92 in the spring. And, no, the winter. It was poignant to me because there on screens were visions beamed live out of Los Angeles of riots on the streets, civil unrest, intense anger, as we all know from what happened in LA at that time, that period in American history, and why. And it made poignant sense that film was important then, at that time, as it would have been back in the 50s. I went to a boarding school. I don't know if that's preparation, to answer your question, and thank you for indulging me that long epistle. I do know what it means to have aspirations and the desire when you're young to fulfill them, and the lengths that you'll go to see if you will or you won't, and you don't always succeed. But my hope is that you try. So thanks for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, I'm Veronica.
Hey, Veronica.
Also, I have a question. Well, I have two questions. One, is there any chance that you could wave at my grandmother? She really loves you.
You want him to wave? Where is she?
Grandma, can you stand
Hi,
up?
Grandma.
Oh,
Where's
here.
Grandma?
There she is, right in the front.
Yes.
This way, right here.
Hi, Grandma.
Okay. He loves you too, Grandma.
God bless Grandma.
Okay, do you have a question?
Yes, and also, how was it making the movie Fairy Vengeance?
Painful. Emotionally.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi.
Hello. There was a movie you did in the 90s that, for me personally, kind of foreshadows Doom Patrol, and that's Gods and Monsters.
I was just going to mention that. Mm-hmm.
And that movie was so different from everything you were doing in that period. And I was wondering how it personally affected you and how you felt about the performance in the movie.
Gods and Monsters was a novel called The Father of Frankenstein. It was a story of James Whale, who directed many, many films, most notably Bride of Frankenstein. His design for who we now know as Frankenstein's creature, with the square head and the top, you know, like a tin of beef, I think is what he called, and the bolts in the neck is indelible Hollywood, an indelible Hollywood image for forever. James Whale, in his, although he didn't know it, in his last days, sequestered himself to the pool house to paint and to reflect on his life because Hollywood had forgotten about him. And he goes through a series of visions or recollections, and in them he is inspired to revisit his past when he befriends an unlikely friend in the gardener who becomes a dark muse to him. And it's a piece about the growing older, and Sir Ian McKellen is every bit as incredible as I had anticipated and knew that he would be to work with. To work on that picture was the fulfillment of an aspiration I never would have even had the courage to voice out loud that I wanted to have. Granted that when I was a student, I would watch hours of Ian McKellen on acting Shakespeare, series for BBC, everything he did in the library on beta until the machine caught on fire. In Gods and Monsters, yes, the story of Frankenstein is indelible, I think, because Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is about creation and what happens to us when we tamper with the natural order, when we play God, when we become creationists. And going further back than that, it's borrowed from mythology. Clay Boone, his name is Clay, is important because it's the story of, Theseus, I believe, who, and I know that there's some mythologists in the house, so help me if I get this wrong, was punished by the gods for stealing thunder and molding a man from clay and animating it. I think he had to be tied to a rock and a big nasty bird ate his liver out every day, but it's mythology. Anyway, so this is a permeable story, that permanent story that I think that for whatever reason, we as moviegoers and lovers of lore and legend, we attach ourselves to that. And yeah, in Doom Patrol, there absolutely is that sticky, thorny question of what happens when you play at being the man upstairs? Is it going to end well for you? Well, we'll just have to watch and find out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing, fantastic movie, Gods and Monsters. Yes, loved it. We have time for just one more question from each side, guys. I'm sorry, but he does have a panel tomorrow as well. So, hi.
Hi, I love George of the Jungle, and to this day I want to eat coffee grounds. So I want to know, were they real coffee grounds that you ate, and how many scenes?
Yes, they were. It was like chicory. It wasn't no swanky Starbucks. No, I just went for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That was a very serious question.
Very serious.
Okay, last but not least, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm Gracie.
Hi,
The
Gracie.
Mummy is my favorite movie of all time, and
Thank
Rick
you.
O'Connell is what I look for in a man. I just want to know that if they brought
Sure.
if they brought Rachel Weisz and the movie franchise back to the big screen, would you want to get back in the saddle as Rick O'Connell?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that is a great note to end on. Did you guys enjoy this?
Thank you.
One more big round of applause for Brendan Fraser.
Thank you. Thank you, Santonio. See you at the movies.